If you're a footballer and you're wondering how you can increase your vertical jump height so you can win more headers and be more dominant in the air, then I'm going to share a few tips in this video which will really help you and are specific to football as well. So the first thing to do is actually break down the movement, look at the movement mechanics and look at the action that we're trying to optimize and improve, okay? So if you think about it, when you're going up for your vertical jump, so when you're going up for your header, before that there's a counter movement. So we're lowering the body and we're loading up the joints of the lower body. So if I show you what's going on, as we're lowering down, the angle at the front of the hips, the back of the knees and the front of the ankles is decreasing, so there's flexion at those joints, and then as we go up for the header there's extension at each of those joints simultaneously, and that's something called triple extension, when the angle at the front of the ankles, the back of the knees and the front of the hips is increasing simultaneously. And if we can be more powerful and more explosive in that extension, then that's going to aid our explosiveness and our vertical jump height. So if I can be explosive here, okay, extending at all three joints simultaneously, then that's going to aid my vertical jump height performance. So now that we've broken down that movement, the next step is to think about what can we do to try and optimize that action and make it more explosive and more powerful and more fluid as well, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is look at strength training, particularly lower body strength training. And that's going to enable us to do two things. So the first thing is that we can develop our fast twitch type 2 muscle fibers. These are the muscle fibers which are responsible for helping you be explosive in all of your actions out on the pitch. They generate a lot of force and they contract quickly as well. So we're going to be able to increase through strength training the cross-sectional area of each muscle fiber, so that over time eventually each muscle fiber will be able to generate more force. The second adaptation we're going to get from our strength training is a neural adaptation as well. So through our strength training we're going to be able to activate more of those fast twitch muscle fibers which are throughout the lower body, okay? So not only have we got each muscle fiber eventually being able to produce more force, we've got more muscle fibers contributing to that movement, which is going to enable us to apply and produce more force as well. The next thing to think about is our power development. So it's all well and good increasing our strength, but we need to be able to apply that force quickly into the ground, and that's going to help us be more powerful and explosive when we're going up for that vertical jump, okay? So plyometric exercises are a good option to increase your power and combine with your strength work, and that's for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that we're going to continue to develop those fast twitch muscle fibers. It's going to aid the activation of those fast twitch muscle fibers as well. Also, it's going to improve the rate of contraction, so it's going to improve how quickly we can apply force and how quickly our muscles are able to start generating force after identifying the action which is required. And it's also going to enable us to train something called the stretch shortening cycle, and this is essentially where a muscle rapidly lengthens and then contracts, and that's what's happening when you're going up for that header. You take that little counter step, so a little counter movement there, and we're loading up the lower body, and especially around the lower leg, okay, the muscles and the tendons are extending, okay, so we're loading them up and they're storing elastic energy during that phase, and then when they shorten, that's when we're exploding upwards. So if we can optimize that whole stretch shortening cycle of lengthening, storing elastic energy, and then quickly releasing, contracting those muscles so they're shortening and then exploding upwards, if we can optimize that and make that snappier and quicker and store more energy in that lengthening phase, then that's going to aid our vertical jump height performance as well. The next thing to think about is flexibility and mobility training, and this will again aid that stretch shortening cycle and get more from all the strength and power work that you're doing. So if you think about your mobility and flexibility throughout the lower body, if you've got a lack of mobility throughout the hips, the knees, and in particular the ankles, that's going to limit the position that you can get into as you prepare to go up for that jump. So let's look at the ankle, for example. Now, as you can see, as I prepare to go up for that jump, I'm flexing, like I said, at the front of the ankles here, and that enables me to store elastic energy in the muscles and tendons that are lengthening at the back of the lower leg and throughout the lower body as well. Okay, now you can see this level of flexion here. If I lack ankle mobility and I can only get to this position, I'm not going to be able to tap into the level of strength and power that I've already got within my body if I lack mobility and the ability to really flex at the front of the ankles there. Okay, so what I can do, if I can increase mobility around the ankles and increase flexibility around the structures of the lower leg and the calf, not only is that going to enable me to get into a better position so I can tap into more of my strength and power levels and generate more power because I can move through a greater range of motion, okay? It also enables my muscles to be more supple, and when they're more flexible, I can store more elastic energy as well. And it's also gonna have a positive impact in terms of injury resilience, because with these explosive movements, you can be at greater risk of muscle strains, okay? So if we're nice and supple, we've got good mobility, good strength around the joints as well, so they're nice and stable, but we're able to move quite freely and just store more elastic energy because we've opened up a little bit more range of movement, okay? Then that's gonna aid your vertical jump height performance as well. So we've increased your ability to generate a higher level of force. We've also enabled you to apply that force at a greater rate. We've also looked at optimizing the stretch shortening cycle so we can store more elastic energy. We've looked at mobility so we can get the body into a better, more optimal position to load up, store elastic energy, and then tap into more of the strength and power levels that we've got within our body. The next step that we can do is think about the core, okay? So if we've got a nice, strong and stable core, that's going to enable us to limit any leaks in energy as we're moving, okay? So everything is going to allow more efficient transfer of energy between the upper and lower body. So if you think about it, if you're coming down to this position, okay, all that force is then going to travel up the core and up to the upper body as we try and propel ourselves up for that header. So a really strong and stable core is just going to make that more efficient, and also again help with your injury resilience as well. Now the final thing to think about is periodization. So there needs to be an element of repeating certain movements so that these movement patterns become ingrained into the body. And when you can do that, the body will become better at identifying which muscles need to be activated to support a certain movement, and that activation can happen quicker, which means that you can apply force quicker as well, which again is going to aid your explosiveness out on the pitch when you're reacting to different situations and you might suddenly need to jump up for a header or move off in a different direction. If your body can activate the required muscles more quickly, then they can apply force more quickly and you're going to be first to react to the ball. But we also need to think about progressive overload, so keeping the body challenged and mixing up your schedule so you're always looking for different ways that you can look for an advantage. So not only are we going to be training strength, power, looking at your flexibility and mobility and core strength and your movement mechanics as well, but you might want to mix up some of those exercises over time to keep the body guessing, provide a new stimulus, and make sure that we're constantly challenging the body so it has to continue to grow at the same time as having some movements which are repeated, so we're continuing to ingrain those movement patterns. So I hope you found these few tips helpful. To summarize, we've developed your lower body strength, we've looked at your movement mechanics, we've developed your power through plyometric movements and the stretch shortening cycle, we've looked at optimizing your level of flexibility and mobility as well, and we've also looked at your core strength and stability so we can more efficiently transfer force between the upper and lower body and be more stable throughout your movements as well. And finally, we've looked at periodization, which will really help you get the most and continue developing as you hit a plateau and break through different plateaus in your training and performance. Now finally, if you'd like to have a strength conditioning program which you can follow from home or the gym, which is specific to football and incorporates everything I've just covered in this video and much more, then click the link below in the description or click the link in my bio.